Good morning, friends. And today we are discussing about the IQ. And whenever we talk about IQ, we basically use it as a metaphor. We always say that IQ is the direct impression of your intelligence. And therefore, if you have a score which is high on IQ test, you like to say that, look, my IQ is like above 130, so I should be very intelligent. And some people whose IQ is above 180, they are ultra intelligent. So this is a part of our society. And is it really a genuine measure for intelligence is the topic of our discussion today, and we will discuss about that today. And where it comes from, what is the history of IQ, and does it play any role in shaping the human civilization, human progress. So these are certain objects that we want to accomplish during our live show. So first of all, how the IQ became such a big parameter for defining human intelligence. That is something that we need to go in depth. We need to understand the history of the IQ test. So that was an era during the colonization when the European countries were colonizing the world. And when they were doing that, they came across so many different kinds of people, different cultures, and different kind of flora and fauna. And therefore, when they acquired a land, they had to manage it also. So it's logical that all the European countries, they may have officers, but they may not have the workforce. So they were forced to get workforce locally from these colonies. And during the colonization, they actually came up with different kind of selection criteria, where from the colonies they will pick up the intelligent subjects and put them in civil services or all kinds of bookkeeping activity, also forced labor. So this was a part of the colonization. So how do you basically select the right people, which matters to them? Because if it is people from their own country, they have certain control. But if they are colonizing and going to different cultures, different countries, which the European people do not understand, especially back in the days, they did not know how we will control the people. One of the method of controlling the people is to basically hire them as give them a job, so that they can perform. But then which person to be selected, because the language is different, there is no commonality in terms of culture, etc. So how do you identify the right person? So considering this challenge, they came up with different mechanisms, and it worked to a certain extent, and they were able to colonize successfully and create some sort of governance across the world. However, in 1905, a Frenchman by the name of Alfred Binet, he was the first one to derive the measure for intelligence, because that was the requirement for the colonial world at that time, where the amount of intelligence people will have, based on that they will be assigned a particular job. And Alfred actually believed that you are born with the intelligence. Intelligence is a God gift to a human, a person. So he believed that, but how do you measure it scientifically? How do you give them a rating? So he came up with some sort of a system based on statistical analysis. The system was basically identifying how much intelligence you are born with, and then that system was basically based on certain trick questions. And the trick question was to basically answer as quickly as possible, as correctly as possible, and based on that some sort of data is generated, and on the basis of the data, the intelligence can be given, in terms of how much intelligence you are born with. That was the fundamental thought process of Alfred Binet, and because of that he actually created this system, which was predominantly deployed in the colonies in order to differentiate between different people with different intellect, and different jobs can be given. Then later this was adopted by 1915 in the general way of life. So 1905 they came up with a system. 1915 the IQ became the measure of intelligence in the world, and then they found that this IQ test can be very useful even for selecting their own workforce, not only the workforce of the colonies, but also their own people. So it started first in the US, where it was standardized as a measure for intelligence. Even back then, people used to think that this is God gift, and we have to basically identify who's intelligent and who's not. Based on that, the work will be divided based on the intelligence, because intelligence is God gift to man or humans. So that was the thought process, and this test, obviously it was not a perfect test. It was based on their requirement, the colonization requirement, whether they need language skills, whether they need communication skills, whether they need math problems, etc. So certain people will actually excel in these tests, certain people will not. So does this mean that people who do not have high score in the IQ test are less intelligent? But that is very debatable, and that actually created a sort of a bias. However, the mankind continued on identifying the different intelligence based on this IQ test, and this IQ test also refined further by taking more subsets of different cultures, incorporating them, and this continued till today, because all these entrance exams like TOEFL and CAT, etc., they are all based on IQ. So this whole thing of identifying humans on the basis of intelligence, which is natural intelligence, was given or started in 1915, and till date it continues. Now let us understand whether this IQ test does it really matter? I mean, does it help us to really differentiate between humans, or create some sort of biases or differentiation in the society? So now it is not perfect. IQ is not perfect. I will tell you why. Say, for example, if you have designed the IQ test in your own country based on your own commonalities. However, if there is a cultural issue, if you are going to some other part of the world where the way you are thinking based on religious ideology or based on different cultural ideologies, your thinking may be different from those people. So if you are asking question based on your understanding of society, your needs, those needs and your understanding may not apply in that country. So when you put across that same question to that person, he may not be able to answer your question, and therefore he will rate lower on the IQ, because he has been taught right from the childhood that these are the things, these are the do's and don'ts based on his ideologies, which could be religious, could be cultural, could be regional, could be language based. So in those cases, this IQ test may be imperfect. So that is why, even though IQ test is also going through a lot of changes, and the IQ measure, which is like 130, people say that you are reasonably intelligent if you have a score of 130, and if you have a score below 80, then people think that your IQ is below very poor. Basically, it's not average, it's below average. So how scientists have come out with this mechanism where they actually do the measure of the IQ. So basically they are all based on certain generalization. So 80% people will get 130, anything between 120 to 130 across the world, based on the standard IQ test, and 10% will get above 130, 10% will get below 130. So this is all statistical analysis based on their input. So when you actually attempt an IQ test, a certain information is gathered from that, and that becomes part of the future IQ test, and that graph, the bell curve, basically keeps changing based on how the responses are coming, or maybe more questions are added in the IQ test. However, IQ became the hallmark of understanding how humans will basically differentiate or how the biases based on intelligence is created in our human society. So it's a very controversial subject. Controversial because it is on one side we are all equal, there is no inequality. However, the IQ test itself will create a sort of inequality in our society based on your rating which you actually attempt in a test. Your position in the society is determined. Whether this IQ test is applicable to you or not, it is immaterial. So that is why IQ tests are also creating some sort of biases. Now, when we look at this, our world today, there are a set of people who are totally against IQ. They feel that the IQ test is not the true measure of intelligence. However, the system which has been created almost more than 100 years back still continues. The students are subjected to IQ tests right from childhood to your post-graduation, where the IQ test became the basic fundamental selection process or filtration criteria for you to join a course, or whether you are eligible to join a management degree course or engineering, etc. So based on your IQ, some sort of position is given to you. Now this is also prevalent in the armed forces, especially when during the First World War, the Americans, when they actually put the IQ test to the new recruits, they were able to identify who's more intelligent, and hence those guys will become officers and less intelligent people will become soldiers. So this is also creeped into the armed forces recruitment of soldiers. Why? Because when they actually applied the results of IQ, they found that generally people with higher IQ will be able to handle the situation in a much more intelligent manner. And this has proved also as a field experience, where even in the work of life, is that when the students get more than 130 IQ, they tend to basically score higher numbers in their exams in the school. However, once you have cleared all your exams and you have finished your education, after that, it does not mean that people with higher IQ will be more successful in life. I mean, if you look at all the 300 billionaires today, half of them do not have very high IQ. They have an average IQ. So the correlation between studying, which is based on certain curriculum, based on certain system, has no reflection of how successful you will be in your professional career. So this is something which has which has come up. And while there are certain jobs, I quoted certain example where the IQ has become the basis of selecting people, identifying their right skills. However, it is not the true measure of intelligence. That is what I feel when I was doing research for coming up with this subject for my podcast today. So now I leave it to you, because this is a very controversial subject in terms of whether we should continue to use IQ as a measure for intelligence, in spite of its drawbacks, or we should come up with a new system to measure something which is much more radical, much more advanced, and not necessarily based on question and answers. Because if you know the answers, you will actually score more. And also at the same time, if you prepare for your IQ test, you can probably get higher score. So I'm not saying that you can cheat, because IQ tests are cannot be you cannot prepare in the sense that you cannot know the answers, what is going to come, and it is based on very complex algorithm, but you can prepare for it. So there are a lot of preparation based websites. Usually students prepare, and it has been seen that by proper preparation of before you start appearing in the IQ test, you can gain at least 10 to 15% upside on your end result. So suppose you prepare for 3 months, then your IQ test maybe, and without preparation, if you go for an IQ test, you suppose you get score 100. However, if you prepare, you may end up scoring 120 or 130. So you can prepare for it. So then it is not, if you can prepare for it, that means anybody can prepare for it and start getting higher than average IQ. So is it really a measure? So I leave it to you. I will look forward to receiving your comments, and I'd like to also know what you think about this subject. Do you think IQ is something which is important, and we should continue as humans to define our progress, our intelligence? I would like to know from you. Before I go, there is a viewer by the name PT, and PT is saying hello. Hello PT, if you have any questions about the subject that we are discussing, I will be more than happy to answer. Kindly send it across and we will take it up in the next edition of Science Show. So thank you friends for joining me live, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.